Hello.
And welcome to Sports Chat. Lots to talk about this week. Spring practice is in full swing. NFL draft happened. Blackhawks have taken the lead in the series. Apparently there's snow at Rockies Stadium for the baseball game.
A big spring blizzard rolling through the Rockies. Interrupted some baseball out there in the West. NBA playoffs are in full swing still. Second round action. The Thunder evened up the series last night, I believe, with the Clippers. As you pointed out, the Blackhawks beat the Wild 2-1 last night and took the lead in their series. They'll be looking for a chance to close it out here in a couple of days. Play the winner of the Kings matchup against the Mighty Ducks. I don't like the Mighty Ducks, so hopefully the Kings win that one. I don't really like them that much either, but I have an old grudge with Dave Mussolini. He used to play for the Mighty Ducks from many years ago. So the East, it looks like, probably going to come down to Boston. Montreal's doing pretty well, though, last I looked.
They're
Rare
playing
for a
good
Canadian
hockey.
team. Canadian teams don't fare well in hockey anymore, as ironically as that is.
That is bizarre.
It's a national shame and disgrace for them. The only thing they've got is winning the gold medal occasionally. Well, pretty much every Olympics they win the gold medal, but that's all they've got. Every 4 years they get a Winter Olympics. Or is it every 2? Yeah, it's every 4.
It's every four still.
I think, that Montreal's probably going to lose in the next round. I think it's 93, 21 years ago, the last time a Canadian team won a Stanley Cup. A long time ago, may even been longer than that. You got to like the chances of the Blackhawks coming back again out of the West, and you got to like the chances of Boston coming in and back out of the East again. I see a repeat matchup in the Stanley Cup final this time.
I hope it's a repeat of the results.
Well, Brock may punch you for that one, but Chris will praise you. We're around Chris more than Brock, so you're going to get probably punched either way.
That's true. Of course, I said locally, spring practice is rolling on. We had a big press conference last week, which is why we did not shoot a sports chat.
Yeah, we went up, got to ask the players a question. You can find it there on the site. The players well spoken this year, got a good plan. Coaches got a good plan in place. We know their plan works. Big personnel losses, to overcome when you're. It's not that they lost a lot of players. It's just they lost really high quality players in Nick Bailey and Christian Monday, Andrew Evans,
Corey Phillips.
And you're talking some all district, even close to all state.
You lost one all-stater, Bailey.
So very, very excellent players to lose. We spoke a little bit with probably one of the more important players. I mean, not that everybody on the team is very important, but spoke with Austin Raines, asked him a few questions up there. And he's pretty much the guy that the coaches are going to count on to be the new Nick Bailey in the system. I mean, it's unfair to Austin to say he's the new Nick, but he just wants to be the Austin Raines. And, he may turn into a giant mud puddle himself after being or into a giant mud hole himself after being the mud puddle all these years. His father, of course, nicknamed Mud Hole.
Mudhole's one of my favorite players I played with. Of course, Mudhole was a lineman, and a darn good lineman.
Yeah, Austin, as a linebacker, he's a little bit smaller than Darryl was, but still, he's a very solid player. Made some big plays last year. He's going to step up. Who's the outside linebacker there?
Paul Wardle?
No. I can't think of his name right now. The coaches mentioned him in the press conference as being a guy that needed to step up. He'll feel it. It's Elijah Powell. He's got the body. He's a big kid. He's about 6'1", 6'2". Looks like he's 220, 230 pounds. He's got the body to step into Andrew Evans' role and fill that role up nicely. It's just, he's a young kid. He's got to get the motivation and the motor on him that Andrew.
Right. That's the thing about Andrew is he was just so full speed ahead.
The coaches basically drool over his possibilities, his athleticism, and just how good he can be if he puts the work in. I think he will. All the guys are up there working hard. It's been very hot last week or so. Everybody knows. Suddenly it just went from being spring weather to being midsummer weather, up near 90 degrees every day. And you go up there at the practice field, and they're all up there. They're covered in sweat, got their uniforms on, working really hard, going through the drills, repeating the plays. It's just what you expect out of a practice with that coaching staff, with the process, and Coach Parker, Coach Dan Turner, Coach Barry, Coach Seaver.
Don't forget Josh James.
Coach Josh James. They drill their individual units, they break up, they run situational plays, not really scrimmage, I would say, but just situational offense, first team versus their first team defense plays. And defense is sort of a concern going into the year with those losses. The defense was holding its own up there the other day when we
It was. I mean, that's a good offense to hold your own against. Again, all-state returning quarterback,
Yep.
top 25, basically the 26th in the nation, coming back, and you've got,
And you
an
look at it this
all-state
way.
receiver in.
As he was out there with those first team offense, Trey Torres was playing offense, Joseph Elkins was playing offense, and Preston Miller was playing offense. Those are your top three defensive backs were playing offense, and the defensive backs were still knocking some passes down. They managed to pick off one of Jeffers' passes, and if you know Jeffers, you know how rare that is. He's only threw 10 interceptions in all the attempts he had last year, and had a 3.9 to 1 interception to touchdown or touchdown to interception ratio, which is very high, very good. 39 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. So I said that it is early in spring, and the offense does, they can struggle at times with timing, but that just impressed
I
me
can
with
tell you
defense.
firsthand from this season, defense is always going to be ahead of your offense. Because, honestly, defense is simple.
I think they've got good potential. I don't know if they'll have the same record next year. Some teams in the district I expect are going to get better. It was a very close matchup with what appeared on paper to be not a great Clinton team. It's 42-41 or 41-40, I don't remember which, but it was a shootout win. I think 41-40 because Clinton missed 2 extra points late. And Clinton added a SEC level player, a guy who's committed to Tennessee. They have a good portion of their team back, and then add a player like that. It's going to make Clinton a lot better. At the high school level, one guy can really...
I spoke with their offensive coordinator yesterday, Rodney, and he's drilling over the prospects.
That level player...
He's looking for this to be Clinton's year that Campbell County had last year.
We saw that with Cody Blank a couple of years ago at Central. He's out most of the year. Central's not good. Central struggled. Of course, he comes back right before the Campbell County game, and he just lit Campbell County up. They couldn't catch him. And he's a guy that was signed with Tennessee, had the good speed, and he just ran around everything else.
When he ran, actually, the thing that impressed me this week, ran down Ethan Miller.
Oh yeah, he ran Ethan Miller down from behind, started probably 5 yards behind and ran him down within 15 yards and stripped the ball from him. And then there's the one touchdown where he ran all over the field, still outraced the entire Cougar team. The Cougars got some pretty fast defensive backs, but that's how big of an impact one player at that level could make in the high school game. And there's Oak Ridge, you got to expect them to be better. Last year, their quarterback, he was a senior. They're going to replace him. But he struggled. He was a 50%, 48, 50% completion percentage guy. Anderson County brings back a good portion of their team. They lose some of those big linemen, but
They have such a strong weightlifting program, though. They may not produce as big a lineman, but their line's going to be solid.
They bring back some all-staters and some all-district. Powell, took the miracle pass to beat Powell last year. They're going to bring back a strong team. They always have one. Gibbs,
They were a playoff team, tough to stop that triple option.
we had a tough time. That game at Gibbs was one of Campbell County's toughest on the season that they actually managed to win. It's a good district. So the record may not be 9-1 next year in the regular season. It could be. They could go 10-0, but you need to get over 6 wins, and that way you're going to be in the playoffs, and then anything can happen. That's the good thing about the playoffs in high school. Your regular season record helps you get some home games, but in the end, you just got to beat the other teams in the playoff, and if you can win 6, 7 games, you're going to have a shot to do that.
Right, and this is a talented group. Now, also on the Campbell County front, Rachel Nelson will be going to the state track meet. As far as I know, she is the only Lady Cougar going.
Yeah, Bryce Dossett had a bunch of top 10 finishes in all of her events for the most part. I think she was top 10 in the long jump, top 10 in the 100 meters, top 10 in the 200. She didn't quite qualify for state in any of them. It's not necessarily where you finish. I believe that you have to get a qualifying time, and she was close. And if you look at those groupings, she's generally the only freshman in any of the groupings that she was in. So, still the sky's the limit for her.
Oh, yeah, she's got unlimited potential.
I don't know if Dakota, her brother, made any qualifying for state scores. I saw he did pretty well in the high jump, which is one of his really good events. And, congratulations to Rachel. Guess she's probably got as good a chance as anybody can.
Well, for a long time, they told, Coach Brad and Coach Evans told us our freshman year that at the time was who they were looking at to be the next Kristen Chapman.
Yeah, she's not the jumper that Kristen Chapman is, but she's really fast and she's good on the hurdles too. She's, nobody's going to high jump like Kristen Chapman. She was high jumping at heights that you see usually that are going to finish the top 10 in the guys side of things. I wish Kristen had stuck with ETSU. I think she won the conference championship in the high jump as a freshman, but apparently she's decided to leave school and come back closer to home to go to school.
Also, I've got to give some hearty congratulations out to the soccer team. Of course, they don't have a postseason this first year, but they finished 9-1.
Yeah, great season for them.
Shane and his assistant coach Rob Kerr had as good a first year as you could have hoped for.
Yeah, they played not quite the full district schedule. Played against some junior varsity teams. They played against a lot of varsity teams though from some of the smaller schools. I think it was generally pretty high-scoring games. They got down the field. They made it exciting. Put some goals through the net. Good sport to go watch in the spring on a nice day.
Hopefully next year they're not that it's a bad place to watch it. Hopefully they'll have some actual seating and it will be even a more fan-friendly event with restrooms, seating, concessions.
I think they can probably get some seating in there and get a concession stand and get the restrooms going. And
There's plenty of room there to do it.
Those are probably things on the docket for the coming season. It was just this season. It was just get it out there, get the field, in the shape, marked off, and go out and play. Get your goals up. At least they got a home on-campus place to play.
Mm-hmm. And that'll benefit the girls next season too.
Yeah, the girls will be on there in the fall.
Another big thing, high school wise, this is kind of sports related in the fact that Don Hendricks has conducted his last band event. We'll have a whole new band director next year, and it's, for like me and you especially, you're watching some of the last of the old guard from when we were at Campbell County High School.
I believe Hendricks has been at Campbell County High School since it opened.
He has.
And I don't think there's ever been another band director, so we'll see what actually goes on up there. It'll be interesting to watch. There are very few teachers that are still there. I think Rick Hunley and all.
Hunley's there, Paul and Georgia Green are there, and I believe, and David Jones is there as a principal. And
it's just that generation's going out, and in with the new, and we'll see what the new band director brings to the table. See what they have going on. See how much participation they're able to get.
And credit to Hendricks, he won many competitions, and he sent many bandies to the Pride of the Southland.
The size of the band has decreased some over the years. Hopefully that can get pumped back up a little bit. Maybe get some flag corps in. You look at some of the other halftime shows, the Hardin Valleys, Oak Ridge, a lot of the other big Knoxville schools. They have huge bands. Some of those, I think Hardin Valley probably had 200 members.
Oh yeah.
They had their flag corps was bigger than Campbell County's band, and then it's just monstrously big band. Great show they put on. Looked like a small college. So hopefully this will, the new guy can come in, or girl, woman, whatever, can come in and inspire some people to go out for the band.
I'll tell you, one thing that probably hurt, and I got to give him credit, he never wavered from his program. Mr. Hendricks, you worked hard to be in that band. I coached football at Campbell County for 2 years. And when we were doing two-a-days, we would look, and the band would be marching in the parking lot.
Oh yeah, they get out on that pavement on this late summer.
And they were in their band uniform.
And just march it up and down through. It's a tough gig.
They had it worse than the football players did during the first part of two-a-days.
You look at it, even during the game, they sit there in the stadium wearing their full band regalia, which is very hot. Everybody else wearing shorts in the stadium and T-shirts, and they're decked out, carrying big, heavy instruments. It's a rough life being in the band. And they don't actually officially participate in basketball. I'm not sure if that will change or stay the same or not.
Of course, the other big sporting news of the weekend, we had the NFL draft.
Yeah, just about like always, I'm pretty disappointed in Dallas is drafting. As long as the Joneses are still alive and not making racist comments, apparently they're going to keep running my professional football life. Kind of wish that Jerry Jones would start hanging out with Donald Sterling and stirring the pot there.
I wish his wife or whatever, mistress, start hanging out with Magic Johnson, apparently.
Now, it wasn't a good pick in the first round. He was a good player and he's available, and they can use some offensive line help. I don't understand this. You're either going to do your draft two ways. You make your draft board and you put the best players on the draft board, the guys you think are the best players no matter what, regardless of position. You take and you draft that way. And that's a proven method for success over the long term in the NFL. And that's what Bill Parcells and Jimmy Johnson and a few other guys did it. You took the best player available regardless of the need or position. And the other one, of course, is drafting based on your needs. And a lot of times you'll see people trade up to draft on their needs and maybe make some mistakes. But apparently Jones decided we're going to draft based on the best player available this year. Well, according to Jones himself and the Cowboys draft board, that was Johnny Manziel. They had Johnny Manziel ranked as the #1 player in that position, at that position in the draft. And Jones decided to pass on him. And you know, if you're going to pass on him, and maybe you pick a guy you need. Dallas needs defensive line help desperately. They didn't pick a defensive lineman. There were some good defensive tackles still available at the time. Didn't pick one, didn't pick a defensive end, didn't trade down to pick a defensive end. They picked an offensive lineman to help protect Tony Romo. Jones came out later and said, well, you know, I've got so much invested in Tony Romo, I'm not going to pick another quarterback. We love Romo, who's, 34 and has multiple back injuries now and rarely plays a whole season. So that's Dallas's fate in the draft. It's just depressing to me. They did traded off their third-round pick to trade up 10 spots and draft a defensive end in the second round. Another baffling move to me. I mean, they could have traded down to the bottom of the first round, picked up a couple of extra, either a second or third-round pick, got the same defensive end they got, picked an offensive lineman that's pretty much as good as the guy they got anyway, and rolled with it from there. I mean, they could have traded down and still drafted Johnny Manziel. But I don't know. Dallas frustrates me with their drafting strategy most of the time.
From the UT standpoint, Juwan James goes in the first round, going to be a Dolphin.
A very somewhat surprising pick. Most people had Juwan as a 38th, 40th, mid-second round kind of guy, 45. Miami needed the tackle, jumped up big and took James.
On the other end of the UT side of it, Tiny Richardson, undrafted free agent.
That was a little bit of a surprise. Apparently, I guess he had some bad workouts or something along those lines.
Just listening to the sports talk today, they feel like it was bad mental evaluation, that he doesn't like to work and doesn't work well with his coaches. That's a biggie in the NFL.
That's tough to overcome unless you're just extremely talented and elite. I mean, he had some good games, but in his defense, he did suffer under the yoke of Dooley for quite a few years, and that's tough for any player to be able to overcome that level of ineptitude on the coaching front and still come out a decent player. But Juwan did it, and congratulations to him. He's a 45th Tennessee player taken in the first round of the draft. Basically, they're averaging a first-round pick every year and a half, so that's pretty good. Tennessee's one of the top 6 or 7 NFL producers in the history of the draft. So we always have plenty of talent. Bush Jones is bringing in plenty of talent. Saw the other day a 5-star defensive tackle, which we've desperately needed over the years, named Tennessee his leader. He's from Virginia. That'd be a huge pickup to further boost Bush Jones' future here at Tennessee. And Tennessee's doing well. I mean, they got rid of Conzo. Got paid for getting rid of Conzo, which pleases me to no end. Donnie Tyndall's come in and just hit the ground running. Already signed got a new recruit today named Eric McKnight, who's a 5th-year guy. He's going to have 1 year to play once a graduate transfer, so he's only going to top a scholarship for a year. Comes out of Florida Gulf Coast.
And a pretty darn good player from what I've read.
Well, I mean, he's 6'9", 6'10", about 220 pounds. He shoots 66% from the floor, which is extremely high. He gets a lot of dunks. Average about 8 points or something, 7, 8 points, and 6, 7 rebounds, something along those lines. And considering that we have nothing in the post basically right now, it's a pretty huge pickup to get that guy who's experienced and come in and play. And you don't have to rely on a freshman. got a guy named Dietrich Mostella. If he can get qualified, and I think there's a pretty good shot he's going to get qualified. He's been at a prep school for the last year, getting qualified. He was a top 50 player in the country. I mean, he's a high 4-star, getting close to the 5-star ranking. Good players you'll ever see, you know, a shooting guard, very athletic, dunk contest winners everywhere he goes in high school, plays for an elite prep school in Indiana. Everybody talks about Oak Hill Academy in West Virginia. He had a big game against Oak Hill and beat them in a tournament earlier this year.
All about West Virginia lately.
And he's a tiny guy. He's about 6'2", maybe 6'3", and about 170 pounds. He can dunk it anyway. There's video of him on YouTube you can find of him jumping over 7-footers and dunking it on. Extremely explosive athlete. He would probably be Conzo Martin's, if Conzo landed, the third best recruit Conzo ever landed in his time in Tennessee in all the years he was here. Donnie Kendall's had 2 weeks to work on this class, and it's now ranked, before the guy committed today, it was ranked 3 spots higher than the class Conzo Martin had left here that decommitted, that he had had a year and a half to work on. And Cal, corrects me up, California's class has dropped 55 spots in the ranking since Conzo took over. And everybody just left, and nobody's really coming back. And he's not exactly attracting any top recruits. But Cal's going to see, you know, I don't know what in the world they were thinking, what their athletic director was thinking hiring Conzo Martin. Thank goodness we get $1.5 million and a new coach both. That's pretty much impossible to beat.
And here's another bright spot of the UT athletic program that gets kind of overlooked. Women's softball team will be hosting a regional in Knoxville, seeded 10th in the Women's Softball World Series.
Honestly, that 10th seeding is even a little lower than I feared. They were actually a top 5 team overall most of the year, but they struggled a little bit. Some of the SEC against Alabama, those fat jackals down there in red. So they always seem to be one-upping us lately, which kind of ticks me off. But I'll give credit. A lot of people criticize him for being a Bama guy. Dave Hart has done nothing but step in and do a great job at Tennessee.
I'll say this. He was a Bama guy. You know what Bama has? Really strong athletic department.
And a lot of people claim, you know, he's sabotaging us, but Tyndall's a great hire. Bush Jones is looking like a great hire. And if you make a great hire for the football team and a great hire for the men's basketball team, you've sewn up your legacy of being a good athletic director. He brought the women's athletic department back under control. It's all one big athletic department like everybody else in the country. I mean, you'd hate to say it, it's politically correct, mumbo jumbo, whatever. That women's athletic department was a joke. We're one of the only schools in the country that did it. We were vastly overpaying almost everybody in it. I mean, Joan Cronin was the women's athletic director, making $500,000 a year or something close to that. And it was filled up with essentially a bunch of cronies, and Tennessee was just pouring money out for nothing and spending millions of dollars a year. I mean, Pat Summitt's a legend and everything, and was a great coach for Tennessee, but they were paying her 4 times as much as women's basketball coaches making. There was no chance that Pat Summitt was ever leaving Tennessee to take another job anywhere else. Sure, go ahead and pay her a little bit more than Gino or any other women's coach if you want to, but the fact that Tennessee was paying her so much, they were paying her, I want to say, over $2 million a year in a sport where most of the coaches, even the top coaches, make $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year, was just way out of proportion from what it should have been. I mean, at one point, she had a clause in her contract that she had to be the highest paid basketball coach at UT. And she made more than Bruce Pearl throughout most of his tenure until Bruce Pearl got to the Elite Eight. Tennessee finally raised him slightly above Pat Summitt by about $50,000. But she was still making $2.2 million. I think Gino Ariema was making about $1.3 million at the time. And no other coach in women's basketball was making over $1 million a year.
It's crazy.
And that's just how out of control all the budgets were over there. I mean, you saw a bunch of people getting mad over it, filing lawsuits when they fired some trainers. But I mean, we were losing money. That's why Tennessee's budget was in such a situation. And Tennessee also gives a lot more back to the academic side than other schools. And that's one of the other big things that it's been suspended for a few years. It'll never stop though. The academics love that money. The academic side, because no scholarship money is given out from the actual school itself. It's whatever money the sports take in, they buy their scholarships from the school. So the school gets $7.8 million a year from those extra scholarships from athletes, that comes out of us buying the tickets or water, shirts, everything.
The volunteer athletic scholarship fund.
That goes to the school, plus the school, the academic side was taking another $7.5 million out of the coffer, just of straight profit. It's taking it and putting it to the academic side. None of the other schools in the SEC were doing that. That's why Alabama has an $80 million surplus. Auburn has a $50 or $60 million surplus, and so does Florida. They don't do that. Tennessee does. 10 years of taking that $7 million extra away, that's $70 million Tennessee would have floating around. Plus all the coach firings hit at the time when we were in a big expansion of facilities. It was just a bad financial situation, and Dave Hart actually is getting it worked out. He refused to give Conzo Martin some kind of ridiculous contract. Mike Hamilton would have probably went down to Conzo Martin and given him a key to the entire school after he got to the Sweet 16 and given him a buyout that would guarantee him millions and millions of dollars. You don't do that, or Dave Hart doesn't do that anymore, and good for him. You got a great coach, got him at a good price, no giant buyout in case something goes wrong. Can't complain anything at all about the way Dave Hart runs it.
I can't either. And fans, that will do it for this week's episode of Sports Chat. We'll see you next week with more spring football and other exciting sports action.